Hello everybody, it's Ron over here at Becoming Enlightened Together. So we're going to do a weekly read. We're going to look at the basic energy not only for overall for the week, but for each day in advance. That will become the past energy for the preceding readings that we're going to do throughout the week, okay? So we got a good energy for the overall for the week, and that is Sowilo, okay? Looks like a lightning bolt. It's the one that Nazi SS incorporated in their insignia, regalia, and so on. Um, but what it generally means, again, it's like the Sun card in the tarot deck. It's the brightest one in the deck. So it talks about the sun. It talks about clarity and clear vision. It talks about honor and achievements and rest. Your goals being achieved. Talks about health, life force. A time when power will be available for you to change your life in a way that you see fit, for the positive, in other words. It talks about changes in general, victory and success, contact between the higher uh, realms and your unconsciousness, power in general, and elemental forces. And it also is the cleansing fire. So generally, it speaks about from both the physical and from the intellectual and spiritual realms, a very, very potent energy that we're talking about that is available throughout this entire week. Okay. Now for Sunday, today we have the power of Canes, and just like Sowilo, it too is in the upright. So the energy for today is that of the torch or the light, or again, clarity. So we're seeing certain energies that are repetitive. That means those are the ones we typically want to focus on. So again, in terms of Canes, which I obviously, like I always bring up, have tattooed on my hand as well, because of the creative endeavors that I partake in, whether it's writing, music, poetry. Uh, I love science. I work with my hands, so you know that's what that basically represents. But it also talks about that light bulb going off over your head, kind of a thing. You see in cartoons and so on. Whenever the character in question basically has a what they call a light bulb moment. That moment where that dawning of an idea or an inspiration or the answer to a long sought after question has been realized, that kind of a thing. So it has that energy attached to it, as well as the inspirational, creative, even your technical abilities. All those types of energies are covered under Canes. It's also a vital life force. So we see that echoed with Sowilo. It's harnessed power to create your own reality. Again, so a lot of that. We're seeing things that are being repetitive in this particular week. So that's very, very good, because last week we saw a lot of what the karmic energies were. And I'm not denying the fact that we still have that shown here to some degree. For the most part, it looks like, as in the previous week to that, we had mostly very, very positive or collective energies that are being shown, since we are coming to a close of the cycle that we've been talking about, and when that closes will differ from each and every one of us out there. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. It's not on this particular date everything ends and it all starts over, into a new cycle kind of a thing. It doesn't work that way, but it does work in the sense that, collectively speaking, we are ramping up and ending a very long cycle for the most part. Okay, but that also means those who are in the karmic energy are also ending their cycle, and since they've chosen to repeat a cycle, they're also going to reap the fruits of their labor, which is what, again, we call karma, bad karma. All right, so two very good pieces of information and energy that we have to work with so far. Now for Monday, what we have is Iwas, and Iwas is a very powerful rune too, but unfortunately this one is also in the reverse. Now, Iwas can be, it's like the death card in a sense of the tarot deck. It's where it talks about death and rebirth. It can also speak about death of a person in your particular sphere of influence, whether they're natural causes or whatever the case may be. It doesn't necessarily have to always be the karmics that are going to be suffering this, but it does talk about death and rebirth, which also speaks about cycles ending before a new one begins. So it talks about quests and conflicts, talks about success and strength, talks about untrustworthy, undependable, feeling weak, unenlightened, being defenseless, having no help provided for you now. So even, the higher echelon, the higher realms, if you will, are turning their back, so to speak. Although that never actually fully happens that I'm aware of. I mean, there are times when somebody has basically made it very clear that they've made their decision, they're going to go this way and nothing is going to change that, then they're allowed to go that way, much to their own detriment. But it's never a malicious thing. It's a teaching thing. It's a teaching moment for all of us. So, all right. Now, in terms of Tuesday, the energy that we have is Mighty Odin's rune. We pulled this out last week. Okay, this is Ansus. Ansus is, like I said, Odin's mighty rune. And basically, it refers to ancestral god. Now, before Odin was worshipped as the supreme deity in the Norse religion, Tyr was basically looked at as being the same, and he is a god of justice and judgment and wisdom, whereas most of the other gods, they had their magical abilities and everything else, when they incorporated in combat and so on. Tyr used just sheer grit and a sheer, I guess you can say, just unreconcilable, will to do what is right at any cost. So he just simply would not, be swayed against his own convictions. So it's very powerful. But anyways, I digress. So this talks about wisdom. It talks about words and the power of words. And again, when we talk about magic, what are we talking about? We're talking about casting what? Spells. Spelling. So we use our words and the intensity behind those words to manifest. Okay, so manifestation is a very popular subject in today's world, and it's done similarly. It talks about defense again. It talks about inspiration and advice, revealing messages and insights, communications and signals, enthusiasm, the power of words, blessings. We can bless or curse, the power, of the tongue. And again, we can echo many different dogmatic scriptures or whatever that are speaking on that subject, but again, I'm going to move forward. So taking advice, good health, harmony, and truth are all part of that particular energy. So Tuesday looks very, very promising as well. Unfortunately, we go back, and on Wednesday, we have his son Thor's rune. And this, just like it was last week, is in the reverse again. So why we're pulling Thursaz in the reverse so frequently lately is something that we should take note of as well. When we see these repetitions of energies, it's not to be dismissed. There's something to that. So what does that mean? Well, we're talking about somebody who's beyond just stubborn and foolhardy, somebody who doesn't take advice or anything of that nature. We're talking about somebody who is looked at as generally a very bad person, okay? Somebody's filled with hate and torment and spite, somebody who's reckless, somebody who's dangerous and compulsive, a rapist, a liar. All of these words fit into the reverse of this particular rune. Okay, so in the upright, Thor is the protector of the 9 realms or worlds against the giants in particular. He was half giant himself, but the point is that it's in the reverse, and we're talking about some very, very potent, as Thor says, being one of the most potent energies in the the runic montage of runes. So that's on Wednesday. On Thursday, which is actually Thor's day, we have Perthro, and Perthro is in the upright. This is Perthro. Okay. Now Perthro in the upright talks about games and gaming, dice, the lot cup, things which are hidden, things which are unknown. But it also talks about the knowledge of one's destiny, occult abilities. It talks about knowledge of the future, the psychic feminine. It talks about things that are feminine in nature, such as the vagina, female fertility, but it also speaks of fellowship and joy. It talks about evolutionary change and sexuality. So a lot of these energies are very potent sexual energies, okay? As you might imagine, being a very grounded type of society as the Vikings were, very, very passionate. So sex obviously was a big part of their culture, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as, of course, it's done in moderation and not ruling over you. Okay. Now, for Friday, what we have is another very good rune, and it's Wunyo. Wunyo. Wunyo is also in the upright, and it talks about the wind. Okay, when we talk about wind, we're typically talking about air, the intellect, as in the tarot. In this particular case, we're talking about harmony, blessings, joy, desire, affection. It talks about pleasure and fellowship. It talks about prosperity and ecstasy. It talks about glory and spiritual rewards. It talks about success and the recognition of one's own worth. So, not so much of the intellectual characteristics that we would see associated with you could say the swords in the air, tarot cards, and what they are typically, like I said, they're more of the intellect, thinking, and so on and so forth. Whereas water is usually the emotional, characteristics and everything else. With the runes, they kind of have a lot of mixing and matching in a lot of ways. There are very, very strong attributes that fall into, that particular category, whether it's fire, air, water, or earth. But they also have the other elements that are, sprinkled in there on each one of these for the most part too. Okay. Again, their viewpoints of astrology were considerably different than that of the Western world in general. Okay. So it was different. Now, for Saturday, the last day of the week, what we have is another rune in reverse, another powerful one, and it's Algis. Now, Algis is generally one that's associated with defense and so on, defending yourself and the defense of others. So what this talks about is actually being used by others, being that it's in the reverse. So being in a long period of waiting, being misled, and vulnerable, hidden dangers around every corner, the consumption by divine forces. Some of the people we've talked about over the several months that I've been doing this now are definitely playing with things they don't really understand as much as they want to believe they do. And these very forces that they've been trying to harness to do their own bidding for them instead of going out and doing the hard work are actually now consuming them. And this so frequently does happen in this particular, world of utilizing magic to get all that you desire instead of going out and just putting the hard work forward. And there's nothing wrong with manifesting something, and you have to put the effort forward as well. But when you're putting all your effort into simply doing the acts, with the sacrifices, the digging up graves, and all that kind of ridiculousness that they do to, empower their magical spells, then they've lost control, and those forces are now having their way with them. So they've actually earned the loss of the divine link. That's part of this, energy in reverse. Losing your link with Source. Well, that's a scary proposition when you think about it. When you do have a reality beyond what we can see, taste, touch, and smell that can have so much, let's just say, can exercise a great deal of authority over you when you're in an equally low vibration and there's no form of protection for you. They just simply have their way with you, and this is where things like, demonic possession and things of that nature can easily take place. Talks about taboos, warnings, a turning away. Some of these people that we're talking about have literally denied God, have literally denied His sovereignty and everything else, while, even though they claim to be atheists and things of that nature, still they were seeking energies from the darker side. Go figure. How do you have one without the other? At the very least, looking at nature and so on, we see that there is balance that is everywhere, everything that we can see, and things that we can't see without the aid of a microscope, or even a telescope for that matter. We see that everything is about balance. You look at the laws of thermodynamics, you look at the laws for electron theory and things of that nature, how a molecule, at least presumably, works and operates, you'll see it's all about balance. So these people are extremely imbalanced, and as a result, balance is being perpetuated upon them in another way that they brought upon themselves, which is going to be quite uncomfortable for them. So, and unfortunately, some of them may have to repeat their lessons in a following life, perhaps many lives to come, depending on how heinous some of their acts have indeed been. So I hate to have to keep saying this, but since I do get a lot of the karmic energies in my readings, it seems I have to be very blunt. I have to be very honest. I really take a great deal of joy in being able to say the positive things for the collective, but I also have to be equally fervent, and I can't shy away from being very honest and open about the repercussions for those who have chosen the other path, the dark side. Okay? So with that being said, that's the overall energy for the week, day by day, and overall it's Sowilo, very powerful and very positive rune. So as always, I wish you guys all victory, and very, very far down the line, hopefully, will allow me to get in Baja. Until then, you all take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.